that Leatherman does. So it's the website, the basic website, plus it's the Idrisi server. Okay, so it's running that application server, it's hitting Leatherman, complete backup on O'Neill, and then our ArcGIS server. I shouldn't say ArcGIS server. It's the server that has the ArcGIS license on it. Okay, so when your machine asks to check out a license to run ArcGIS 10, it has to hit one of these machines, and the first one it's going to hit is Leatherman. If Leatherman is down for whatever reason, which isn't common, but if it is, then it automatically gets popped over to O'Neill, where a copy of that same license exists, and you're up and running. Okay. This setup here is actually our network attached storage. It's turned off right now because we're actually changing it over to a new operating system. Kendra's working on that as she has time. So this one's Wind River, and it's actually two physical pieces of hardware, but it occupies quite a bit of space also. It's a 5-unit server. What we could do is we could, of course, juggle them around, but the cables aren't terribly long, so we like to keep them together. This is the actual NAS device right here. It's called a hardware appliance, NAS hardware appliance, and each of these is actually filled hard drives. There's about almost 2 terabytes of usable space on this RAID 5 implementation right here. Okay, and this is these hard drives are filled here as well. This just takes care of the operating system, disk 0, and some other smallish stuff on Wind River. The last one that we haven't talked about is Yellow Jacket. I believe that's this one here, the last one I haven't talked about. Yellow Jacket, its functional role is, again, it's a website server, and originally it was set up, and this was a couple of years ago when IMS was still fairly common. So we're looking at about 3-4 years ago. And so we set it up as an IMS server. Now we're moving all of our IMS services off to ArcGIS server. And I believe there's only one left on here, and when that is done, what we're going to do is we're going to start shuffling these things around. This one's going to be rebuilt, as I said. This one will be rebuilt, and we're going to build a computer cluster so we can start setting up a very, very powerful geoprocessing server on a cluster. A cluster is simply where you take more than one server, make them act as one server, kind of connect them up, and physically they act as one server, and they have tremendous processing power. Do a lot of neat stuff for you. So that's the role of those things. That'll probably be in place. Maybe by the end of the semester, something like that. Not a super important priority right now, but that's where we're moving with this thing. Have some fun experimenting with clusters. Okay, so in a server rack, you'll see that we've got a lot of ductwork inside here. There is, when you're walking outside there, take note today or whenever, you'll see there's an air conditioning condenser that's up on stilts. Okay, that air conditioner only deals with this room right here. That's the only thing it does, because these servers right here put out a tremendous heat load. Okay, just tremendous. And if that air conditioning fails, this place will go to about 90+ degrees in 15-20 minutes. Okay, so what we have is a smaller backup air conditioning unit that's set at about 75 degrees. If it ever gets, that one will kick on. The newer servers that we have, Leatherman's one of our oldest. Leatherman and Wind River are some of our oldest, and I'm not sure I don't think they have these. But the newer servers have temperature probes inside the CPUs themselves, or inside the servers themselves, and they're set that if the server temperature gets above about 85 degrees, that they'll shut themselves off. Okay, so that's our next little line of defense there, so they don't overheat and then get destroyed. They'll just shut themselves off.
How many watts of power is this rack using?
Yeah, that's a good question. I haven't calculated that recently because we've added some new servers to it, but there's a pretty good draw of electricity, and that's a concern. More of a concern today in the IT world than it was years ago, because of course of the carbon inputs that people are concerned with, because you got to get your electricity somewhere, and so you try to think about how much and how cold should you really keep it. How much is that costing? How much is that costing globally? when you look at it, all these other server sites. But I don't have the exact numbers on that. But it's something that you do need to think about when a person's setting up servers. And it's a good reason to use racks, because what you're doing is you're consolidating and you're essentially cooling a small room, right? And if you have one, maybe a larger room where you have lots of racks, that's fine too. But if you have one server here, and one server there, and one server, and you got to keep the whole place cold for the benefit of those servers, keep them running, that's going to become far more expensive than if you can consolidate them into a rack design. APC recently came out, in a couple of years, with a rack design that is essentially a refrigerator. The entire rack chills itself.
With the glass doors?
Yeah, glass doors, and it's essentially a refrigerator. So all you're doing is not cooling the whole room, but just cooling the racks themselves. Kind of cool. The way these things are designed, you see all this grill work on the front of every one of these, and it's designed to suck the air in here. These walls are solid, and the fans push it all out through the back. It exhausts out the back. So working with that sort of system is pretty nice. They're all on rails, so if you have to do any sort of maintenance on them, they slide right out, about up to here. You can do all your work on them, open them up like a car engine. You know, the hood opens right up on it. You can do all your work on them. It's kind of a well thought out design, the whole deal. To work on any individual machine, we have a monitor and keyboard right here, sort of like a laptop, right? Except there's no CPU. You simply choose the machine that you want to use using the switch right back there. It's a digital switch. You say, okay, I need to do some maintenance on K2. Click on K2 and now you're seeing K2. Or I want to use this one or that one, or whatever it is. And you can do your maintenance, so you don't have to have a monitor for each individual machine, which would just take tremendous space, of course. Okay? We have a similar setup on the half-rack server that you guys will be using. There's no switch where you got to decide what you want to do. But same type of thing. You'll slide out the keyboard and monitor and kind of go from there. Okay? Any other questions?
Are any of these servers Linux?
No. Everyone's Windows. Let's see, I think the oldest one here, this is on 2003, Windows 2003 server, that we recently purchased the Windows 2008 R2 server operating system, and that's what's going to be put back on Wind River and built up, and then this will be changed to, well, that is a Windows 2008 also, so that'll end up in the cluster. Anything else? Okay, well that takes care of that then.